one word to describe growing up in comedy.
Inappropriate.
Yes!
Well, here's inappropriate. The first time I tried cocaine was I took it from my father.
Oh.
I stole it from
So
my
it's
father.
like pot, kettle, pot. Yeah, yeah.
When you got a passion,
Hi everybody, welcome back to Do Over Divas. Do us a favor while you're here, please, and hit subscribe. It would really help us out. We're just starting out, so yeah, you don't even have to watch it. Just hit it. We promise. It's super fun. I'm Corey.
I'm Jill.
And I'm Libby. And today we have such a fabulous guest. She grew up with stand-up legends like Jerry Seinfeld, Andy Kaufman, Richard Pryor. She worked on Letterman, created shows for Comedy Central. Then she dropped the mic on the network grind to co-found Comedy Gives Back, a nonprofit to support comedians in crisis. She's comedy royalty with a rebellious streak. Please welcome my dear friend, the irreverent Zoe Friedman.
Love it.
Love that.
We love
That's
irreverence.
my favorite adjective, by the way.
Irreverent.
I'm glad you're
Yeah.
here, and I'm glad you're irreverent.
Me too.
And you're a rebel, which is another great.
Right? That's
Yeah.
another
Hell
good one.
yeah.
I
And
never
we need
thought
more of you.
And the
was,
nicest rebel ever.
but I was like, wow, I guess
Even
I am.
better.
I
You're a
know.
rebel. You'll bring people along
Rebel,
with you.
rebel with a heart of gold.
That's right.
Is that Rebel Wilson?
More of those movies.
Wilson.
All right, so start at the beginning, Zoe, because it really is a ridiculous story. You grew up
Ridiculous.
in the improv.
I grew
Ridiculous?
up. I grew up. It's ridiculous, but it is my life story. No, and you know, it's one of those things that you never know what's weird about your upbringing until you get out into the real world, right? You don't know
True.
that not every parent really owns a comedy club.
Right,
Their
right.
Parents, that's not even like one of the top 10.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but
You're not napping in the green room. Not everybody's napping
yes,
in the
exactly.
green room.
So.
With Richard Pryor.
With
That's
Richard
a whole
Pryor,
other
or
story.
Jay Leno, who
Yeah.
slept on our couch in the 70s.
And you said
Awesome.
possibly naked. I'm
Possibly
just
it
going to
was
throw
like he
that.
would come into the story. Now I've heard from different perspectives, but I remember this guy, Jay, who would come and sleep on our couch because he would drive down from Boston. He would come to the Improv, and my dad, who managed him, my mom, and would bring him home. And it was really the only comic I remember ever really crashing with us. You know,
Right.
my parents were not Mitzi Shore bringing comics home like my parents were.
They were good parents.
They were mildly better. They were I mean, they were great in a lot of
step
ways.
above
I mean,
that.
They were-
yeah, they kept it they kept it out of the house. But no, they did the best they can with the resources they had at the
Sure.
time they had, and they were great in a lot of ways. But they were very self-involved. They were growing a business, the best business too. As I got older, I understood how
Right.
unique it was and how crazy it is that I had comedy at my backyard, and I loved it. The truth is, all I wanted to do and be when I was a kid is to be an actor, and I asked for an agent for my birthday for the first, 7 years of my
Oh my
life.
God, I asked for a screen test.
Did you really?
Yes.
Oh my God. How
Totally.
old were you, Corey?
Probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
and my
wow.
dad was producing a movie, but we were in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, wow.
But I thought he could get me a screen test for my birthday years in a row. I asked for that until
That's
finally I
fine.
was like, time to go to LA.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I'll do it
Bye,
I'll do it
family.
Let's do it myself.
Well, that's what I asked.
What did
for
your
an
parents
agent
say?
for I don't know.
Because they know
I-
the other side of it. They know how
I think-
difficult it is.
Yeah,
and
I
how
don't remember what their answer was, but I but I mean, it wasn't like. But they knew that, like, so I did plays. I was in act, like, so they.
Right.
Yep.
My parents, kind of, opened that up, and then had these children in cabaret. So I did cartwheels, stood on my head. My sister played the violin. We weren't talented, but I had a stage,
That's
and I
pretty
got to
talented.
be.
And they're like, you're
I
so
got to be like, yeah,
good. We
that's
love
right.
you.
I have an audience for you.
The
but-
answer's no.
And you have Andy Kaufman.
And then Andy Kaufman would host.
Holy shit, that's
and
cool.
we would get to vote on what character would host that day. So it was either the foreign man that turned into Latka, or Mr. Mean, who turned into Tony Clifton, and or Elvis, who was always Elvis. And he would do the "Here I come," all of
This
it.
is
And-
unbelievable,
that was like private
Zoe.
shows for not just me and my sister, but kids are. It was. Again, you don't know that's different
Yeah.
until it's
Wow.
Yeah.
you get
Wow.
to
And
I have
how
appreciation
cool that
for it
is.
later, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and it was
incredible.
like, of course I get to have a stay. I don't know, my sister and I would go there during the day, probably, and because my parents couldn't afford a babysitter, and we'd play on the piano, or and like, what a dream,
Yeah.
And then we moved to LA, and my parents split up. It wasn't a great time. And I went to the club, but I don't have, I was like 7, 8, 9, 10. Like I played Pac-Man at the bar while my dad was at the, upstairs in his office or whatever at the club. And once in a while I would go, but then my parents split up and I moved back to New York and I became a teenager. And then the Improv became like my playground. Like then I would go and
then
see.
all of a sudden it's cool.
Well, it's the coolest.
God.
And I loved it.
Yeah, she's
So-
like, I'm done.
Yeah.
All of this
Yeah.
trained you, like you spoke comedian from the youngest age, right?
So it was kind of in my blood, so to speak. My college essay was about comics getting better, right? That they could, so again, there are some really funny people, there were some people who work really hard, but what I did see is comics could come, they could have a joke that bombed, they could change a word, they can change the way they start, and then I saw things and people who weren't funny get funnier and
Work on their delivery.
that's
and
work
sort
on
of
everything.
massage.
It's a
Wow.
practice,
Yeah, it is.
right?
It really
It's
is.
not-
It is.
Yeah.
and I related it to myself because I didn't make the volleyball team freshman year, and then I made it sophomore year, and it was about me working and knowing that hard work pays off. So they love that kind of shit, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But it was real, and it kind of like
Yeah.
the stand-up thing. And I, so then when I started working in a more official capacity around comedians, it was one of the most natural things to know how to talk to a comedian, understand their psyche. And I will say, like in my early years, right, but my later years at Letterman, right, so I was there about a dozen years. One of my jobs was like talent assistant. I would greet the guests. I wasn't booking them. I wasn't producing them yet. I was like meeting them, like being a page or being at the desk.
Yeah.
And comics were on a lot, and most of them I knew, or a lot of them I knew, and I knew how to calm them down, and I knew how to talk to them. And I will say
Wow,
that
that's
I
a skill.
have forever friends in this business because of that moment, because doing Letterman was so important. And that's, when I booked
It's a
and
career
produced,
moment.
it
It
was a
is.
career moment, and I
Yeah.
have those bonds with those comics. But earlier, before I was even doing it, holding somebody's hand when they're vulnerable, when they're nervous, and knowing how to speak to that.
Right.
Like Jeff Garland, always devoted to me. Anthony Clark, who God is off the deep end, whatever, in life and alcohol. But Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle, I wasn't the first
So
person
brilliant.
to book him, but when I started booking him when I took over for that role, but he had been on a couple times. But knowing him and knowing how to make them feel safe, make
Yeah.
them feel safe. I think,
Make them-
we
right.
all need to feel safe to do
That
our
is-
best.
that
And-
is your
100%.
superpower.
Yeah, and people you don't realize how
Yeah.
much comics really need that. I
They
mean,
really
my
do. Yeah.
God.
I
They're
dated a
broken
couple, so
people,
I know
most of
that-
them.
Broken,
Yeah.
most of them are
Comics
broke.
are mostly broken
Which is
people.
the
I
comic
dated one
that
for years.
said, God, what was the quote? If my dad had just given me a hug once, I'd
Oh,
be an
yeah.
accountant.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you'll appreciate this. My father-in-law, my husband's father, who passed about 10 years ago, did all of Jerry Lewis's stuff. And he was a great director and one of the funniest human beings you've ever met. But he was the one that was called to go calm Jerry down.
Really?
Yeah.
Anxiety, whatever.
Yeah.
Like what he was, that was
Yeah.
his skill set. And that's how he sort of took off as a director. It's like, oh, we need Jack in the room because he
Because he can.
he just knew how to speak the language. He was
Yeah.
also wildly funny himself.
Yeah.
But and comics are often, and this gets to what you're doing, your nonprofit,
Yeah.
broken, and that's where their humor comes from. I don't know any
Yeah, drama.
undamaged
Yeah.
comic that's really
Yeah.
funny that's never been through something.
Yeah, their drive is from something. It's most of
Yes.
them. I do think there is a generation of comedians
Yeah,
who
that's
have
right.
loving parents
That's
and are
right.
incredible
Yes.
joke writers
Yes.
and are
Yes.
monologists, and they're equally as successful or funny. They're just not from a place of. And my comedy, my cup of tea in comedy is a little bit of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Show me your belly,
100%.
make you laugh. Right,
Yeah.
again, because
Yeah.
it puts everybody
Yep.
in that safe place
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
Self-deprecating.
That's right,
Like, I
self-deprecating.
can't do it if it's not there.
Right, and if somebody's too good looking, I'm sorry, good looking comics, you have to work harder. You
do
Yeah,
Because
you
I was
do.
like, I don't buy it. Boo! You're too pretty. Boo! Show me your pain. Boo!
You gotta
Life's
call
too
it
easy
out.
for you. How are you funny?
Yeah.
I've never booed. By the way, I
never
have never booed a comic in my life. I'm the most
You're good at it,
dedicated
though.
audience member. I'm like, I am not a booer, but
You've
I
never
need
booed
you in my
anyone
life.
in your
oh my
life.
God, I'm so
No.
never booed.
No,
I've
I
been
know.
I've been
I
at
mean-
shows where someone goes stupid, and you're like, oh yeah, it's so mean, but
It's awful.
Oh my God.
it's awful.
Oh
like
my
so, you've
God.
never done.
I just like I feel for that person. I always feel for the person on stage. I'm like I cannot be up there doing what they're doing. So I'm going to be a great audience member.
Bombing,
Yeah.
I'll laugh really loud, even if it's fake, and then I've been razzed before for doing that.
If I laugh.
Yeah.
If I am not on the ride, if I'm not on the, I love to look at other people on the ride because that gives me
Yep.
Yeah.
not quite as much joy, but a different kind of joy to
Yes.
see
Yeah.
somebody else in that
Find
expression
pleasure.
of like, yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Like I don't need to like,
Absolutely.
or if I miss something, I'm in the bathroom and I miss the
Right.
start of it, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to enjoy other people going on the
Yeah.
ride,
Yeah.
That's
you
awesome.
know?
Yeah.
That's something too.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
something
So
too.
Zoe,
Yeah.
you start out being raised in the Improv, all around comedians. Andy Kaufman, the biggest comedians of our time, sort of a
Jerry-
dream
yeah.
for most people.
Larry
right?
David,
Yeah.
Jerry
Oh,
Lewis.
wow.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
All of
Richard
whom you're
Lewis,
still
yeah.
friends with, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
And then you go to Letterman. And how
Oh.
was that trend? Letterman was a huge
It was huge.
show.
Yeah.
Letterman was
Huge.
huge. I was an intern.
Were you hanging at Dave's house or did he come to yours?
He was a Comedy Store comic, so I didn't know Dave. Funny
Oh.
enough. However, as we have kids and we want our kids to like what sparks our kids, and you have to see it to be it.
Right.
I had a moment where my dad, he knew Dave, but again he was more of a Comedy Store comic, took my sister and I to the first morning show of David Letterman in 1979
God, the morning.
or 80. And my dad came back east for a visit, and it was starting. It was on. So I went, and when I worked at the show, and they looked at the first, they were like, "Is that you in the front?" I was in the front row, pigtail, Spider-Man T-shirt on.
Oh my God.
Zoe!
But here's the thing: that morning show was a very short-lived show.
Yep.
Right.
It was the craziest thing one's ever seen in the morning, maybe even for late night, and I wanted in. I wanted to run away with that circus. I was like, I don't know
Wow.
what
You
this
knew.
is,
Yeah.
but I love it.
But you
and
loved-
and we all generationally have our
And you remember that
people.
feeling,
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
I remember it. I
Yeah.
remember it because that
That's so cool.
spark is what it has to happen in a do-over or wherever it
Yeah,
is. And
yeah.
I will say that spark. Anyway. So I had that spark at that moment, and I was like, I want in, and I got to be an intern thanks to nepotism. My dad did
Sure.
get me the interview.
Your dad was a legend.
My dad was a legend in his own
Yeah.
in the comedy world for sure, and had a lot of connections. By the way, the one connection he offered up to me, and I applied to colleges, I turned down because I was a fool. And here's what I will say to anybody listening. Nepotism or a recommendation will only get your foot in the door. It won't keep you there.
Right. Yep.
It won't necessarily even get you
Get
the
you the
job.
job. No,
but
no.
everybody else leans into what they have, so one should always. It's
Always.
stupid
Take advantage
that
of
I
it.
didn't do it.
Yes.
Now, by
Yeah.
the way, it didn't matter. Life is life. It was
Right.
the one college I didn't get into. Funny enough, out of the 7 I applied to, but it was fine. It didn't matter. But I
What
was like,
college? Can I ask?
Northwestern School of Speech.
Oh.
You belonged
Now-
there? I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
yeah, I went to a very conservative liberal arts college, upstate New York, and it was probably the best college I got into name-wise, but it was so different. It was like a wasp. It was like
Yeah.
a bee's wasp of wasps.
Yes.
I never
Yes.
met a wasp. I was like a
Yes.
New York
Full
Jew,
on.
full
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
And I
With a bunch
married
of
a wasp. I
comedians.
was like,
Yes.
oh, I'm in. I don't know what I'm intrigued. My mother was all the feels, and wasps were none of the feels. I know why I married the man I married. I was like, how anemic can your feelings be? I mean, honestly, because my mom, it was all the feels.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
now I
Silver
want to
was
come on,
bigger.
give a little. Now my mom's
Yeah.
dead. I'm like, come on, more feels, Steve.
Now,
now
I
you know,
only
like,
like comics that are vulnerable.
yeah, well, yeah.
I didn't see that ever.
Yeah. That's funny that you leaned into that. That's great.
Yeah.
So you
love
went
that.
to Letterman. You're
So I was an intern, and then I went back to. I was an intern young. I got a job a couple years out of college as a receptionist at the late. So I was 1 year at the show at NBC at late night, and for people who are young and don't know, that's a 12:30 show that followed Johnny Carson, and before that there was no show following Johnny Carson except like Dick Ebersol. I don't know. So it was a new kind of franchise that was doing well on NBC. And so a year there, and then I was a receptionist there, and then I moved my way up as a talent assistant, talent booker, producer, and
Yep.
my niche, I did celebrities, booked celebrities, which was awful. I mean, publicists are the worst. And but the comics was the best. The fact that I got to book and produce comedians was the best job I've ever had. And
Wow.
if that's what I could have stayed doing without doing the celebrity, I might have
Yeah.
stayed there,
Right.
but that wasn't its own job. But it's the one that Dave really cared about. He didn't care about the
Right.
third lead from American
Right.
Movie. He cared about the
Right.
stand-ups.
Right.
Yeah.
But I got in with through connections, but I stayed with a lot of hard work and a lot of great. I mean, I was a receptionist for 2 friggin' years.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
and
You climbed that ladder,
I
man.
did. I paid
yep.
my dues.
You did
I-
pay your dues.
Craziest story from that time?
Oh my God. Well, from Letterman in general, I can say that, and this is a good one because it's about trusting your gut, is that comics, when I would book and produce comedians, they were very willful. It's not surprising to anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I could mostly speak to them, and understand how to speak to them, but I was also like a 25-year-old, 26-year-old woman early on in my career, and the comics who were mostly men that I booked
Yeah.
at the time, sorry women comedians, I'm sorry, would kind of fight me on things. Like, you know, I would say, and this is my comedy whisperer, knowing how to speak to them, like, I will never know your act as well as you know your act. You're
Right.
with it day in and day out.
Right.
But I do know the show, and I know what Dave likes. So I have to end with that. It kills. I go, so if you want to end with it, that's fine. You will get off maybe with a big rousing applause, which will happen anyway, even if you don't end with that. But
There is a
Dave
sign.
might not, right,
might not
exactly.
come back.
But
Yeah.
Dave might want you to
That's
might
right.
not like that end joke.
That's
Right.
right.
So that's what I can offer. I can offer like what works for the show. I can't offer you what works in Omaha on
Yeah.
a Saturday night. You know that.
Right.
Right.
Different medium, different thing. And often we find our way. Sometimes they would listen. I've had one
And by giving them that, by saying you know your show better than I do,
try
it, it opens them up a little bit.
I think
you know?
that's right. I think that's
Absolutely.
right. And
yeah.
I get some good positive feedback even to my friend Greg Fitzsimmons, who did his network debut there. He was like, "Oh my God, you were so right, Zoe. That last bit was so
Wow.
hacky. I didn't need it." First of all, he did not need it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
recently rewatched it, and it was a really good set. And he's like, "You were so right. I didn't need that." So that's
that's nice
One
to
that
hear.
it didn't go so well, where those moments where you're like, I'm gonna get fired. I
Yeah.
always thought I was gonna get fired. That's what I realized.
Didn't we
I
all?
mean, I think so.
Oh,
I
God.
mean, I did a
Especially when
little-
you're young, you
Oh
really
my
are like,
God, that's
I am
right.
messing
Yeah.
this up
Oh,
all
I'm
the
messing
time.
up. I'm
Yeah.
going to be
All the
fired
time.
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And so Amazing Jonathan was on, and that was not one that I brought to Dave. Usually I would scout and then bring the people to my producer, and then the producer would bring them to Dave and get ultimate approval. This one Dave wanted to book, and I
Okay.
would do it. Yeah, of course,
Sorry.
Dave. You okay? Do you need water?
Yeah.
I do.
No, yeah, and pause, just water sip. And he had, so Amazing Jonathan was booked, and I did, was trying to do my best, and it wasn't like I could go out in a club and work with him like I did with a lot of comics. We'd go out and do 5 different sets a night. It was really
Wow.
fun, and
Wow.
like change the word, do this in the open,
Yep,
try this
yep.
at the end.
That's
And
you
just-
watch them
fantastic.
perform.
5 times a night for sometimes 4 nights.
Wow.
It was an
Wow.
amazing process, and it was one that I knew Dave cared about, so I was
Yeah.
on it. I
Yeah.
loved it, right? I loved being in clubs. It was not,
Yeah.
it was sort
It
of
was
my
home.
second home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did with a lot of them. Now, but Amazing Jonathan was a magician, so I knew his set. I think he probably wrote his set out and told me, or we did whatever. Then the set came, and he did a rehearsal, tech run through. So it's me watching, and that's not normal either. Normally, you run the night before, and then you're not having.
Right.
And he's doing it, and the last trick was him stabbing his assistant, his assistant's eye
Oh,
with
God.
a scissor,
Oh my.
and it was brutal.
Did people, like,
entertaining?
Yeah. Right, and I felt it was misogynistic.
I was
felt
about
it
to
was
say.
harsh.
Yeah.
And I said that to him, and I should have probably not said misogynistic, because because all I could have said is, that's not going to work. This is about like
Yeah.
shoulda, coulda, woulda,
Right,
right?
Not
Right,
right.
Because
right.
It's not
he doesn't
gonna.
need to know.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't the right quality for the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I want to
Right.
over-explain because I
Yes.
am the comic whisperer.
Yeah.
I want them to know.
Yeah.
I go, I think there's a little misogyny. Blah, blah.
Wow.
And you're a
he-
woman.
right.
You,
Yeah,
so
I
is
mean,
that
the
woman
minute
who's
you
getting
said it,
her
I
stabbed
felt.
in the
Right,
eye.
right.
Yeah.
We all had it.
I was
and
like,
you-
good Lord.
And he's like, it is not. And he yelled at me, and I didn't stand my ground, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't trust my gut. And I will tell you that of all the
Oh, boy.
dozen years I worked at Letterman, there were 2 redos. It was live to tape. Once was Salt and Pepper on the show. There's a wardrobe malfunction.
You
we
saw
had
boobs?
to redo it. Yep.
Yep.
We
On
had to
purpose?
redo it.
Like
no,
Janet?
no,
Oh, okay.
no, and we had to redo it. No,
Oh, okay.
because that's live. This
Yeah.
is like not.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we never used it. That was a mistake we did, and I forget one other we had to do. The show was over. The show
God.
ended. And Dave goes, "What was that?" So I knew it was too much, and I didn't trust my guts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
any time in my life that I don't trust my gut and I have that, I go, fuck.
Yeah.
And I'm still at 57 figuring out how to trust my gut and
It's a
how
hard
to,
lesson
It
to
is.
It
well,
is.
it's a
keep in mind.
constant.
Yes.
It's a muscle, right? That we
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
It
and,
is.
And when there's swirl and we're not calm, we don't hear it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
quiet. So we want loud, we want drama, we don't want that
Yeah.
quiet, like, that's was right.
And
you know,
he
like,
can't, you
oh,
were
he was
young,
so-
you were a young woman, and he
Absolutely.
comes at you. I would have,
Back down too.
myself would have
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
whoa.
I would've
I
too.
might
But
be
at
wrong.
25, I would have gone, okay.
Yeah.
And by
I
the way, a
didn't-
friend of Dave's, right?
Right, exactly. Not
That-
even my
not-
booking,
no.
right? So
Right.
that's a good
Yeah.
point too. I was
Yeah.
like,
You don't,
and
yeah,
he-
you can't
you know,
win
So he
there.
couldn't blame you, but he did, right?
but well, you're right. And I don't
Can
even
you
remember.
explain, like, hey, I
Oh.
tried, but your
they-
friend's an
well,
asshole?
They don't want to hear the explanation.
No, they won't.
no,
But at
no.
25, I remember
Well, you
thinking,
know, in a lesser
Yeah.
one, some like Rob, there was my producer. It wasn't Amazing John. There was another one, and he's like, Zoe, you came to me and asked me last week if this comic could wear a sweatshirt, and you didn't come to me with this joke. Like, Letterman moves me to Los Angeles as they launched Late Late Show with Craig Kilborn. So I worked on both shows
oh, wow.
from here, and it was the best offer I could have ever had. I wasn't sure I wanted to move to LA, but they were like, you can go, and if you don't like it, you can come back. I was like, what is this?
That's a good
camp?
offer.
Yeah,
I
What is
love
that?
this. You
What
know,
is this?
camp. I'm in. Like,
Comedy
they're gonna
camp.
pay for my move, and I can come home if I don't like it. Seems like a good.
It's a win-win.
deal, win-win.
Yeah.
So I moved, and then about a year and a half in, I left Worldwide Pants. A month later, a development job opened at Comedy Central that I heard about, and I went for it. And so a year and a half in, I went to be a director of development at the West Coast Comedy Central office under an amazing woman mentor named Debbie Liebling, the woman who's responsible for South Park on the Air.
Wow. We love her.
And she is somebody who she was a Wildwood mom, and led by just heart,
Yeah.
and like she was a
And
true
humor.
mentor, and humor,
I mean-
and not like into the cool, like just
Yeah.
really all good.
Yep.
Very lucky, and then stayed there another 11 years, and worked. She left. Other people came in. Was there 11 years,
Time to
3
go.
different bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been there, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
exhausting.
Yeah, time to go.
Time to
Yeah,
go.
by the third boss.
Yeah.
yeah. There was company takeovers. 3 bosses later.
As they're explaining to you why,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not working.
Yeah,
but
that they
making
can't
money.
renew my contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand. It still was fucking devastating because I guess I was so identified by work,
Well, you
that
work so hard.
I worked
know
so
you.
hard,
Yeah.
right? And I'm such
It's
a
devastating when
it's
that
right
happens.
because
It is.
and it's a rite of passage. By the way, now I see it as like as the jobs get less as you move up. It's just part of what happens. But
Yeah.
I was so identified with my job, and I loved my job, and
And you
I was
worked
such a
so
good
hard at
employee.
it.
I was
Yeah.
like, fucking
Yeah.
like I am the cog
Model
in the
employee.
wheel.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
am
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
collaborative.
Yes.
Yes.
Keep it moving.
Yes.
I keep right. I'm
Yeah.
like
I'm
I-
tireless.
You know, the fact
Yeah.
that I mean, and by the way, when I was let go from Comedy Central, they let me go
They're
with
doing so well now, Zoe.
I know, right? I know. I left saying that I was, and I did do that, produce a documentary about the 50th anniversary of the Improv, which was conveniently
Wow.
in 2013, and this was 2011. So it was reasonable that if you're going to produce a film for the 50th,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
I had never produced a film, and that was my story. I didn't have a job to leave. It seemed legit enough to me. We had a going away party, and I started trying to make a documentary film and made a version of it, but proud of that as well. And then learned how to do over. That was my first time
You're
that I
do-
had to.
That's a big do-over.
It is.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to figure it out, and I had to, I'll say that there was a woman that I reached out to who another producer used in some transition, and she was a career coach, but she was somebody who worked in the business. So it wasn't like somebody
Right.
who went from HR in corporate America. She understood the industry, which
Yeah.
was very important.
Yeah.
And I was a puddle. I was so upset. And I met her at Jerry's on like Beverly Boulevard. across
remember
from
Jerry's?
Theater.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jerry's Deli.
God, I had
Such a huge
so
space.
many
Right?
lunches
I
there.
know, right?
So many.
Oh my God,
And
I
I-
met Shaq there.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah,
That's very
Well, so
random.
At this point, hold
So,
on.
yeah.
Are you just like?
I'm-
Are you doubting yourself? Are
I'm
you feeling?
completely. I feel I'm a piece of like
Just ignore
unworthy.
that, I do.
I feel unworthy. I feel like I have no value. Like really,
Yeah.
I didn't. It was really devastating.
I mean,
That
we've
is
all
that's
been there.
devastating.
And-
You've definitely been
yeah,
there.
definitely
We've all
been
been
there.
there.
Yeah, of
and my
course.
friends would say, so I met with this woman, and her name's Carol Kirshner, and she sat with me. She goes, "You worked on this show and this show." She goes, so she kind of gave me the metaphor of like use the beam, the spotlight, and go over here and like look, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't matter what title I have. I take my experience
Yeah.
wherever I
Wherever
go,
you go,
whatever
yeah.
hat I'm wearing. I was and because of my family a little bit, and because I had Letterman before me, my reputation was I didn't see it at the time was bigger than just Comedy Central.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
You know, like it was, but I didn't know
But
it.
you didn't
Yes.
know because you're in it.
Because you're
how the
in
hell
it
would
and-
you? Yeah.
Right.
Well, and
Know
because
it.
Zoe also, I think, like a lot of women, downplays all of her success.
Yeah, it
So
did
she
not-
doesn't lead with, "Look at everything I've done." You're much more of a team
I'm a shadow
player.
artist. I'm getting other people to get their vision. That's
right.
what you do.
Right.
and-
Helping them
by
accomplish their
helping them
dreams.
accomplish it. And
Yeah.
it was a comfortable place for
Yeah,
me. And
totally.
that's part of this do-over is moving yourself into a little bit more of a forward spotlight because you
Yeah.
have to be the entity. And it's
Yeah.
been a
hard.
process because I was then also so I did the documentary in 2013. Very proud of it, kind of exciting. Then I got another job in development, which was a miracle, I felt, because I felt like I would never work again. And I was old at the time, but not as old, obviously, as I'm now, but in Hollywood and dog years,
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah.
know, right?
None of us know what that's like, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they
We're all
say-
still
yeah.
getting phone calls
Oh
from
yeah,
everyone.
I know. I mean, I can't. The jobs that keep coming my way. Anyway, it was heading up TV for this new division of Warner Brothers Television. It was a dream job. It was a senior vice president level, so higher than my
Wow.
level, overseeing a team. Like it was great. It was a great job, and at that point in my life, it was emerging platforms. So it was, Verizon Go 90. It was. ABC, Signature, all these sort
Yep.
of experimental, which all became premium
Sure.
SVODs. But
Right.
then it was a great job. It was really fun to be in the front seat of that pioneer time.
Yeah.
And that's where Libby and
And
I.
as a woman.
And as a woman.
Yeah.
And that was great. I felt great value again. But then again, it kind of was time for me. The whole business was changing so
morphed.
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was like,
That morphed again.
I'm not feeling
Yeah.
my value here. I'm feeling it again. I gotta go. And they were in agreement.
How long were you there?
4 or 5 years.
Okay, that's a
you
good
know.
run. That's
And
a
the
good run.
whole division's not
Yeah.
really any longer.
Yeah.
But when I was there, so Libby and I met because our kids went to the same school,
Yep.
and we're Libby's youngest, my only youngest, oldest, and middle, all met. They were in a kindergarten class together, and Libby and I created this show.
I
and
did this while I was at Fox.
Right.
So
Yep.
it was
It was-
complete bedlam, but
And
I knew
also
the
on the
Fox thing
down
would
low.
be coming to. Yes, that was on the down
Right.
low.
When
You
was
knew
this?
that would
This
be
was
coming
in
to an end?
2014.
Oh, at some point.
Yeah, it was a while
because,
ago. I
I mean, it
remember.
was
Yeah,
it
it
was a
was-
while
it was-
ago, but network television has been wrapping up for a long time now.
Yeah. Right, they're trying to make
and
a
women
comeback.
and middle-aged women have been taboo for a
Yes,
long
yes,
time
that's
in
right.
Hollywood.
That's right.
So
Yes.
that's the TikTok, and
Yes.
and
Yep.
we all felt it and experienced
I'm
it.
sure, yeah.
And our production company was called Big Yard Productions because where
That's where we
in the
met.
school was the Big Yard.
I
your
love
lady the other
where we
that.
way.
met.
I love that name.
It was basically moms in minivans getting milk.
Yeah.
So like
That's-
That was
Yeah.
the original
Yeah.
picture.
the
Yeah.
original picture of
Yeah.
moms, and we went to Seinfeld
But celebrity
originally.
moms, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 The Maya Rudolph's, the Amy Poehler's, the
Fantastic.
right?
Yeah, I mean, Maya was a great guest.
Yeah.
She was a great guest.
Yeah.
That
So
was great. She was a Westland
We-
mom with me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah.
yeah, and we got Anna Gasteyer to be our
Yep.
host.
Yep.
So it was going there with Anna Gasteyer, but we sold it to this division. I was as an executive, so I had many hats.
Yes.
and then we had to sell it to a brand. It was for
Yahoo.
Yahoo. That's how long ago it
Yep.
was.
Wow.
2014. Yahoo was
Yahoo
doing
had
original.
whole original
Oh yeah, they all
division.
had original programming. That's how I met Libby.
Okay.
We worked on a couple things after,
Yep.
and then you
Yes.
know, life, whatever happens.
Pandemic.
I want to
Pandemic.
hear about what
things.
you're doing now.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
This is
Please.
So
This
you're
is-
doing
this is a
development,
great
and
pivot.
then
So I was at Warner Brothers for 4 or 5 years at the division, Blue Ribbon Content, and oversaw some cool things that got made, never got. I mean, it was such a
Yeah.
wild, wild west. Left in 2019, had another do-over. You know, kind of.
so this is a big do-over.
There's a big do-over. I mean, you know, I didn't know. You know what the biggest change was for me at that time versus when the Letterman, Comedy Central, is that I really liked having a boss. I found that a really valuable relationship, especially because I could always learn, and as long as they respected me and I was working to I never felt I had good bosses. Let's
Yeah,
say most
yeah,
of the time. At the end of Warner Brothers, I felt I had outgrown, if not my boss, maybe that dynamic in the level I was at, because it almost felt like I had been giving other people's notes to creators for so long, and like in a hierarchy, my boss's notes were more important than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
longer. I am an experienced, that's
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
outgrew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, got
And
it.
again, trusting my
Totally.
gut,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
being able to speak to that a little bit more internally, but I got tired of the process. And I'll tell you, this is
Yeah.
a really true segue to the Comedy Gives Back of it all. My side gig while I was at Warner Brothers, besides producing a show
Yeah.
early on, was, in 2011, my two partners on Comedy Gives Back, who weren't my partners at the time, just friends from the comedy space, came to me at the Improv and said, "Do you think we could change the world through comedy?"
Wow.
And as I've established, I have been in comedy my whole life. I think about comedy a lot. Nobody had ever asked me that question. I go, "How much time do you have?" Yes.
Yeah.
It was my health, it was my wealth, it was my connections, it was my relationships. My husband, who's not a stand-up,
was your
took
joy.
a stand-up class. That's how I met him.
Wow.
Like it was
Right.
my joy. It was
Yeah, it was
and I wanted
everything.
to share those. It was my health. Like I wanted
It
those.
had been in every part,
every part,
aspect
and
of your
everything,
life.
and I
And
wanted
you
to
loved
share-
those people.
Yeah, I love the
They
whole,
were your people.
Yeah, I
You
love
them.
comics. I love
you
the whole
know? It's-
industry.
Yeah, I get it.
So we started a company called Transforming the World Through Comedy, which did comedy, charity, and technology. And then in about 2018, 2019, we shifted and we pivoted to be a nonprofit ourselves and to support comedians who are in crisis. And it really came about organically because a comic who I knew very well, who had done many of my free shows for Wildwood,
Yeah.
for maybe even my son's preschool, which I continued to book and do till my son was in
Sure.
high school with
Yeah.
Greg Fitzsimmons.
The LA preschools have the best shows. We had Slash. We had Slash performing. I mean, it was crazy.
And
Yeah.
we had these great comedy nights and still doing them. And he was in a series of mine at Warner Brothers. So he was in my zeitgeist. So that's why I would go to the people that I'm paying. Do you want to come do this for you?
Right,
So we're in
right.
Montreal at the Comedy Festival, Just for Laughs. And in front of a bunch of other comics in the bar hanging out late one night, he said, "If you ever want to do comedy and not get paid for it,
Yeah.
hang out with her," and pointing to me. And
'Cause who
I
doesn't?
Thanks,
and
man.
I laughed. But it was that oh, I guess I am. Oh, and then I turned to my partners later that day or that festival, and I said, "I think we're missing the mark." And then you look at musicians, and they have music cares, and you look at actors and performers, they have entertainment fund,
Yes.
motion picture fund home, television fund
You're
home,
right.
and
Yeah.
the comics have nothing.
Nothing.
And if you're a long-time comic, road comic, no shame in that game. There's no union. There's no guild. There's no,
Right,
you're not
right,
making the
right.
guild
And
into the
that's a hard
WGA
life,
or
yeah.
it's a very hard life, just like musicians.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
cares could
Yeah.
do it, how dare us not do
Yeah.
it for our community? And comedy maybe wasn't such a business way back when, but it certainly
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
is and was
Oh,
in
yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
It's a behemoth.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
So we pivoted and we became our own 501c3. We had our first fundraiser December 20.
And just repeat the name. It's called
Comedy
Comedy
Gives
Gives Back.
We are
And do you
this-
do show? Do you have a show coming up for
We
this?
do. So we are just like Music Cares. We help comics who are struggling, financial crisis, mental health crisis, chemical dependency treatment. If you're a comic, come. Info at Comedy Gives Back. If you're a person who loves comedy, donate.
Where are these shows? Are they all
Okay,
over?
so all over. Check on our website. But I will say that we do about 5 shows throughout the year. The one that's coming up on August 18th is an annual show we do to honor the late great Brody Stevens, who was a local LA comedian, the 818 comic, who died too soon, took his own life, committed suicide. And here is the story that it's the straw that broke the camel's back for us. He had a show that was on HBO and Comedy Central. They shared, I think, Comedy Central Digital. He had either SAG-AFTRA insurance. He had mental illness. He talked about it on stage. He talked about ups and downs of minutes. And that was part of Brody's charm, is he was very open and transparent about his mental health. And anyway, he was in a really good place. He had insurance through SAG-AFTRA, the doctor he found, and he was really in a good path. Well, guess what? The show was canceled.
Oh.
He can't afford the Cobra. And he changed his doctors. And he knew that he was going to hit a low period. The doctor said, but nobody was there at that. Now, I will never say that I can change the course of mental illness, depression, bipolar. That is not my business. First, second, and that's a beast. But if we were there at the time, if Comedy Gives Back was there and somebody said, could you pay for Brody's Cobra?
Could have given support.
We would have been able to pay their insurance for a year.
That's right.
He could have stayed with. Now, again, we don't know what the outcome.
Who knows? But
was,
it might
But
have.
that's what you do now.
That's right. That's what we exactly, for those moments, for those crises, life-changing, unhoused, losing a car. If a comic loses their car, first of all, comics are living in their cars because they're feature acts. And it's a losing proposal. They're not even like sitting on their couch smoking weed. They're working and losing. The musicians had the same thing. Willie Nelson had a program, a gas card program. So we're looking to have a comic maybe sponsor that for our featured middle acts, right? So we're new to the, I'm new to the, talk about a do-over. I've just recently become the new executive director of Comedy Gives Back, which is a new title for me and a new role. I never thought I'd be asking people for money. It couldn't have, if it was one thing you could have asked me, like I never would want to do.
Right.
in
It's
my
a hard,
life.
that's probably the hardest job you'll ever have, is asking
is.
people
It
for
is.
money.
But it's for such a good cause.
I guess it's
It
just
is.
time. I guess in
It's
all
time.
my do-overs, in all of my wisdom, and all of my personal whatever, get more comfortable making money, receiving money, not leaving money on the table. All I could do was ask. I always be closing is that business model. I just always be asking. I don't know if they're going to give, but if you don't ask,
ABA.
you're
You
not
don't
gonna
know.
guess. That's right.
And all it takes is one yes.
We did a digital telethon on April 4th, 2020. We never
nice.
expected that would come back.
Yeah.
80 comedians said yes. It was our Laugh Aid. It was our Farm Aid. It was our Live Aid. We call it Laugh Aid. We had 80 comedians participate. We raised over a half
80?
a million. 80.
That's beautiful.
$500,000 raised that night. 4,000 individual donations, which says to me comedy is important.
Yes.
And if something I know, now comedy's always been important to me.
Yeah.
But it is increasingly more important. I will go essential. They're essential front workers.
It's so strange because I can't imagine it not being important to someone.
Right.
That's
true.
what's so
I
weird.
know. Me too. It's
I'm
everything.
Like, it
I mean,
just,
humor
it
just
is
helps.
medicine.
It is.
But especially when the world is dark, and it is getting darker, but it was really dark during COVID.
Yeah.
You need that humor, and people craved it. And you also deliver to them.
And it's connection.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's connection.
Well, that
Which
one
was
we
also
did.
essential then.
Well,
Yeah,
then on that
so
digital-
much
the-
so. So I have a question for
Yeah.
you. So, and it's something that I had talked with him before. So, do the comics come to you for help, or do you kind of get, hey, this guy's in trouble or this woman's in trouble, let's go in and help, or do they have to come to you and find it and reach out for that
It's a
help?
really good question, and it happens all different ways. We have something called the Comedy Club Network, and it is clubs that hopefully support us financially, but more importantly, our services and resources and programs are no good if nobody's using them.
Right.
Right. So if we have a strong hold in New York and LA, because that's where we live just naturally. So I think there's a higher awareness in those cities.
Yeah.
It is imperative that our distribution is robust in all parts of the country, so people know about us.
Right.
Because if they don't know about us and know that we have these resources, it doesn't matter how much money we raise, how many
you're not
comedy
helping
nights.
those people if they don't know about you.
That's right.
Exactly,
So the club-
exactly.
And so we hope that, because we do get calls from club bookers, managers, and
I
say,
bet.
I think this person's in trouble.
Wow.
Do you have any, and then that's on them if they want to be. I can come to somebody and say, let me know if you need help. But usually it's somebody a friend or a club person who comes to us who then goes back and says, you know what, Comedy Gets Back got you. And they can get you in therapy and get you with a psychiatrist.
see.
And we have, we've had friends like co-hosts on podcasts.
Yeah.
My podcast partner hasn't shown up for our podcast. This is
Right.
many years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
She's on the couch. She needs help. We got her to a psychiatrist. She's so grateful and so verbal about the help. She's out working. She's doing her podcast. Like, it is like those testimonials that move your heart to really understand the vulnerability of the business.
Yeah.
And mental health generally.
Yeah.
Comics live an isolated life on their
Very
own.
much so.
So if you're isolating more because you're depression or bipolar, so people watching, eyes and ears on you, but I would say mostly people will come to us.
Right.
So we're always trying to figure out how to penetrate appropriately the business. Like, we go to comedy festivals and do lunch and learn. So it's like, come
Oh,
eat
wow.
on us, come eat
That's
pizza,
fantastic.
and let us just tell you,
We're here.
what we do and how easy it is and how, it's changing because we've been around long enough now that we've helped people in pandemic, which was a great equalizer.
Yeah.
And then people who mental health, like Jay Moore was the game changer for me. So we helped pay for his third and currently final rehab. It's never, forever. And people I know, when he comes to speak on our behalf, and that was a first, that somebody wanted to speak about something that's very shameful for a lot of people, to say how we helped. And I hear people at our golf tournament, he came, people like, why does Jay Moore need help? Why would, and I go,
my God.
well, if you're going, I
Wow.
wanted to say, if you are going,
no
first of all,
idea.
people are uncomfortable with the people asking for help. That's what
Yeah.
I know. But if you're going to your third rehab, you don't have friends. Your partner is done with you. You have spent all your money. The third one, people don't understand that process
Yeah.
into the third, even to the first
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So he had success that he ate through, and now he is, knock on wood, like so happy, so sober, married, and verbal.
You're
about
saving
us
lives.
helping. Yeah, and I don't.
You are. I mean, I don't mean just from suicide. I mean just from
No, from
self-destruction and
self-destruction.
loneliness and
That's right.
despair.
And so we hope that more just people hear about us and
Right.
come to us. We try to get into festivals to have
get the
people
awareness out
The
there, yeah.
awareness.
Yeah.
We're partnering with a great film called Anxiety Club, and it will be out on a platform called Jolt soon.
I
They're
think I
giving
should star in that.
10%
I was gonna say.
of their gross proceeds.
Just in case. That's a big cast.
But it is comics who some I knew
They
had
need someone.
mental health. You guys
They've got Corey.
you guys part two, Anxiety Club too.
Totally.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
it's like
I got
it's
you.
Joe Liss, it's Aparna Nacharla, it's Mark Norman, it's Mark Maron,
Wow.
all
Oh, wow.
speaking
Oh,
to their
wow.
anxiety, and comedians, and it's an influencer named Tiffany Jenkins. It's a beautiful film. It speaks so well to and I just hope that people see it, again, know about us, so we try to be ubiquitous, and I think we're getting there, that
Yeah.
more people are knowing. And so these shows, which are really like not the role of an executive director to book Bill Burr but it's
Right.
kind of the culmination of all my roles. I did
Yes.
2 pilots with Bill Burr at Comedy Central.
He's wonderful,
They did
isn't
not,
he?
He's
just
the
wonderful.
Best. He is
Yeah.
so funny.
I love
He
Bill
makes
Burr.
my asshole tighten up so
Yeah.
hard
He's
when
so
he starts his premise,
know.
and then I go, please cut, and then it
I
brings it
know.
around, and he
Yeah,
knows it.
he's
He
so
walks,
funny.
He walks that walk. He's so skilled. Mwah, chef kiss to
He really,
Bill
really
Burr.
is. You're amazing, Bill
He's-
Burr.
I
Yeah.
heard him on an NPR show, and he
Yeah.
is just, he gets all riled,
Yep,
and then
that's
he
right.
is so good at
Yeah.
reining it in and going, you know what, hold on. Let me,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a stupid jackass.
yes,
Yeah.
right?
let me step back for
Let
a
me
second.
step, and then
you
he
know?
kind of ties
Yes.
it all
Yeah,
together.
it's so that new self-awareness that he's got recently is
he
lovely.
has what the male podcasters don't have, which is how to bring it back to common sense and reasonableness.
Yeah.
That's right.
I
That's
don't
right.
think that's a word.
So I do have one more. I know
Reasonableness.
Libby has a question. Do you find that it's more women or men that, like, women, I feel like we sometimes try and tough it out and we're like, I'm good. Or, is there,
That's funny. I think that's a Gen X thing. I think
Right.
we're very much we're going to grit and bear it.
For sure.
A generationally thing. I think women are more willing to ask for help because I
Especially
think
to
they're
other
willing
women.
to.
yeah,
I think that's
especially
right.
to other women.
Other women.
And it's 3 women. It's you, Jody,
Right.
and Amber.
Yeah, Amber,
who, who, I love that it's women doing this. You're like
Yeah.
the mothers. We got you. We'll take care of you.
Yeah,
Well,
and-
it would have to be.
And
Yeah.
right, exactly. Well, and here's what I
Probably.
wanted to say, that segue that it's taking me this long to bring back around. I was so tired by the end of my time at Warner Brothers, besides kind of parsing out my boss's notes, maybe in priority over mine. saying no.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
You have to say no in this business.
That's hard.
And it was exhausting.
Yeah,
it's
I was
awful.
running out of reasons. I was running out of, so I love that Comedy is Back helps comedians who work on cruise ships, who work in college. I don't care. If you are making people laugh,
Yep.
you are eligible. And,
Yeah.
like we have criteria, of course, as a nonprofit. But I'm saying, like, it doesn't matter if you're on TV, off TV, in arenas. If you are a working comic, and there's a lot of versions of it,
There is.
we get to say yes to you.
Oh.
That is what I
Feels
mean.
so good.
It
Doesn't
feels
it?
so
It
good.
does,
It
right?
feels so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
You were born to that.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't mind asking for money for it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we got to help the comics who help us laugh. They
Yeah.
are essential, and the art.
100%.
Yeah,
It's amazing that there was no one doing this before you.
this is what I know about comics.
That's a tough one, and I dated a couple, and I don't think either
no.
one of them I'd want in that cell.
I
Hence, we didn't marry comics. Even though
That's
we dated
right.
them.
That's right. Because you date them, fuck them, have fun. They won't even help you move. That's why. They won't help you. I mean, they're not good. They're very self. So
Much fun, though.
That's so
God,
much fun.
so
But
much
that's
fun.
why Greg Fitzsimmons, who's a comic who I brought up, I'm actually friends with him because he is a comic who can actually talk about other things.
Yes.
And he has a family. He
Yeah.
can talk about because
Instead
I
of just
love
thinking about what they're going to say next. Yeah.
I love
That's all I
comics.
do,
I love
actually,
hanging
but
out
yeah.
with them. I support them. I want them to make people laugh.
Yeah.
I just know kind of the limitations.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's when a lot of people ask me, what do you think about the Joe Rogans or the Theo Vans? As entertainers, go listen. They're comics. Don't take their fucking advice. They're comedians.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
They're playing a
don't-
part,
Listen to
they're
the
man.
playing-
first part of the
Listen to the
sentence.
first part
They're
of Joe
comics.
Rogan,
But
and then
you
yeah.
know, that's the crazy thing is people don't even know Joe Rogan's a stand-up.
No, I know.
They
When-
don't?
No.
They don't?
Young people who listen to him, young men.
I
and
saw
their
him do
manosphere.
stand-up.
Oh my
Was
God.
he funny?
Yeah,
Probably.
he was funny.
And last
One word to describe growing up in comedy.
Inappropriate.
Yes, that's the best word ever.
Okay,
One of my
last,
favorite things about comedy.
Inappropriate,
Yeah.
right.
last question.
Inappropriate.
Well, here's inappropriate. The first time I tried cocaine was I took it from my father.
Oh.
I stole it
Fuck
from
yeah.
my
It's
father.
like pot.
You should have
Metal.
opened the
Metal
whole
pot.
podcast
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
You should
Well,
have
maybe
opened with
we
that.
will.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
duh,
just
there you go.
episode
We
two.
have it. You
Do
can
over,
edit
do
that.
over.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
coming.
much.
This is so great.
So fun.
I
Tell
love
us again
this.
your
So fun.
website.
Yes.
ComedyGivesBack.com.
Great.
Yep.
Where you can find-
ComedyGivesBack.com.
Has
Find
all the
shows,
information is there.
information,
That's
everything.
right.
This is
And my
comedy
husband
royalty
does our
here.
Yep.
website, so take a look. We just launched a new website.
Yes. Get the word out.
Steve,
Get the word
Thank
out.
you, thank you,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Thank
you
you.
for coming. See you next week
you
on
next week.
Do Over Divas.
Yoo-hoo.
New episodes of Do Over Divas dropping every week, wherever you get your podcasts.